Hello everyone, so it's Friday, time for another Friday reads. We are getting to the end of the year, so things are getting slower and slower. But I read 3 books this week. The first one I finished was A Holiday by Gaslight by Mimi Matthews. And this was a romance novel that I read for my book club, and we had our book club meeting yesterday. And yeah, this was just a typical romance. It's about these 2 people in Victorian England, I think. She's from a noble family, but they don't have a lot of money because the dad keeps spending their money on renovating this house that he's obsessed with, and putting electricity and gaslight and plumbing and all these things. And then the other character, Ned, he is a successful merchant but with more humble origins, and the father of the girl wants him to marry her at the beginning because he wants the money, basically, and she agrees. And then they start meeting each other and they start to get to know each other, and at the beginning they think they're not for each other, but that's just because of certain misunderstandings, and then they develop this relationship, as you can expect in a romance novel. And yeah, that's basically the general plot. It was funny in the book club that we were saying how sort of disappointed we were that this was so well written and it was not trashy enough for us. But yeah, it was fine. It was a perfectly fine thing. It was very short. I read it very fast, and it was enjoyable. I'm not one for romance novels, but yeah, that was fine. The next one I finished was The Most Fun We Ever Had by Claire Lombardo. And this follows a family, mainly four daughters and the parents. So it seems we catch them at a time in which they are all the daughters are sort of in a crisis and try to figure out their lives. And yeah, we go back and forth. So we go back to when they were all born and they were teenagers and growing up. And then we go forward to the present moment and see how their lives are playing out after all those troubles. And this was engaging. I did want to know what was going on, and the plot was interesting. But I found the characters very cliche and very dramatic. It was clearly over dramatic. This book was so dramatic. There are things like, for example, the older sister. They all think that she's very messed up, and they talk about her like she has nothing of value because she doesn't work. She she had a rough few years when she was a teenager, and then she grew out of that and got married. But then she had a stillbirth and her husband died, and then after that she has been sort of like drinking a lot and having sex with a lot of different guys. But yeah, for me it's like, yeah, of course she's having a rough time, but they are talking to her like she's completely messed up and she will never change. And then at the end of the day, she's the one that takes care of everybody else. Yeah, and then for the youngest one, Grace, she's also making this huge deal about the fact that she cannot go back to home because she has been lying to her parents. And basically what she has been trying to do is she wanted to go into law school and she didn't get accepted in any of the schools she wanted to go, any of the schools she applied. So she has been lying to her parents about that. And then this is like that huge thing that makes her have to break up with her family and not go home ever, and she cannot have any normal relationship because of that, which I thought it was very dramatic, to be honest. So yeah, I don't know. I think that the even though I was interested in the story, and the author makes it enjoyable enough to want to know. It's basically like a soap opera. You want to know what happens, but you know that the thing is kind of silly because the relationships are so blown out. And yeah, and also another thing that I personally didn't like, but I understand that is just a me thing, is that so the parents of these 4 girls are this old couple that have been in love for so long, and they have this like perfect relationship, and all the daughters blame dad on why they cannot have normal relationships, because these 2 adults had such a perfect one. That's their model, and that's not achievable for them. So yeah, it's like no matter what you do as a parent, they are always going to blame you, and that's not something that I personally want to read right now in my life. So yeah, this one was a bit it was a bit of a mixed bag, because I did enjoy the process of reading it, but then looking back at it, I think that it was just very overblown. So yeah. And then the last book that I finished is The Female Persuasion by Meg Wolitzer. And this was about... I first of all, I picked this up as the bisexual, pansexual, whatever book for the Bias Breaker Readathon. And I don't think it is, because in the back it said like... this girl, Claire, starts working in like a feminist foundation, and at the beginning she had a perfect boyfriend and she was really in love, but then when she starts working there, she kind of falls in love with her boss, but actually it's like a more of an adoration, platonic love kind of thing. Like she just thinks that her boss is really cool, so it's not really like that kind of relationship. So it doesn't really work for that prompt, but I'm gonna count it anyway because I thought it was when I started it. And yeah, basically it is about that. It is about Greer starting to work in a feminist foundation, and it has a lot of discussion about what feminism is. And I did like some of those conversations, but overall it came across as a very white, very privileged feminism, and a very privileged book in general. And it reminds me a bit of books like Normal People, that kind of writing and that kind of entitlement to things. So yeah, I was also not crazy about that one. But yeah, that happens. But on the positive news, I have started something that I'm really loving, and that's The Eighth Life by Nino Haratschivili. This is about a family in Georgia, and basically it spans the whole of the 20th century, so it's a family saga. And I have read just a little bit, it starts with a prologue in the present day, and it's this woman talking to her niece, and telling her, I'm going to tell you the story of our family. And then it goes back to, I think it's the grandmother of the aunt or something. And it tells her story, how she was born and how she grew up. And this family has been in the chocolate business for a while, and they're starting to think that chocolate is coarse because some bad things happen in the family, and they think it's the fault of the chocolate. And then it has also all the political stuff going on in Georgia, and with the Russian Empire and the URSS at that time, so it has all that political thing added to the story as well, the history of that region, which I didn't know anything about and still have a lot to discover, of course. And yeah, I'm loving it, and the writing is so beautiful. It just feels very cozy and very warm. Yeah, I'm really loving this. I knew I was gonna love it, and I was right. And yeah, I mean, it's a big book, but so far I'm really into it, and I think this is the main thing I'm going to read next week as well. It's 930 pages or something, and I'm around page 50, so yeah, I probably will just read this next week, but I'm completely okay with that. But in case I want to break this up a little bit, in case I get a little bit tired or I want to go somewhere and this is big and heavy, I have the Goede Immigrant, which is an anthology of non-fiction essays from different people about what is the experience to be an immigrant in the Netherlands. And I think it has a lot of different perspective. Like it has Middle Eastern, African, Asian, but also like European. And yeah, I'm quite looking forward to this as well. And I think that because they are short essays that are not very connected to each other, it will be something good to like balance with this other one. So yeah, these are my plans for next week. Let me know what you have been reading. Let me know if you have read any of these things and what you thought about them. And until next video, bye!